What's going on, all you awesome superhero aficionados? This is the Heroes and Mutants podcast. I'm Nick with my co-hosts Jimmy and Ruben. Thank you guys so much for joining us on today's episode. If you guys are liking the content and liking the show overall, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe. Also follow us on Instagram at Heroes and Mutants podcast. We just hit our first year the other day of operating on Instagram. We really want to make it our goal next year to grow as much as possible. That's going to be our New Year's resolution. And also, too, we're going to be giving more prizes and raffles in the future once we hit 1,000 followers, and then each milestone after that. So make sure you guys are helping us reach those goals quicker, and we can get out more expensive prizes that I think are mostly going to come from Jimmy's wallet. Jimmy said that he's going to be investing probably in about a good couple grand or so.
Oh yeah.
I'm totally kidding. But make sure you guys like us there, follow us here. Thank you guys so much for your support. Let's get into it today. I think the biggest news that happened this week, it's something that we knew about. An earlier report came out that this actor was going to be reprising his role in 4 MCU projects. And I think because of all the rumblings we've heard and how critically acclaimed this actor was, and nobody, and even though they were also said they were going to reboot this character, which was kind of weird. So we're like, wait a minute, so does that mean that he's coming back? Because a reboot, it's obviously meant as a replacement, or was it going to be a soft reboot? We didn't know exactly, but Kevin Feige finally confirms Charlie Cox will reprise his role as Matt Murdock / Daredevil in the future. Chances we get to see him be a prominent member of the MCU going forward, and how excited are you to see him back?
I'm pretty sure he's going to be a prominent member of the MCU going forward. I don't think Kevin Feige would have made an announcement if this weren't the case. What I'm hoping for, I don't know. Disney will do it. Let's hope Disney does it. R-rated Daredevil movie in the MCU, like the show, which I know it doesn't have a movie rating because it was a show on Netflix. But if it were a movie, it would be rated R. So let's get it going. Let's get a rated R Daredevil movie. The Frank Miller Daredevil, which is badass. I mean, if you like Frank Miller's Batman, you'll like Frank Miller's Daredevil as well. I hope they do it. I'm excited, and I think he's going to be pretty prominent. I'm going to be a little disappointed if it's a PG-13 one, but I'm sure you could still make a good movie out of it. That's just the route I'd choose.
Yeah, for sure. I believe Charlie's a great actor. I really like him in the Netflix series. I think that's probably one of my favorite shows out of all the Defenders that they had on Netflix, you know. And then, like you said, moving forward with the MCU, talking about the Defenders I just mentioned. I mean, you know, we still had the Avengers. You know, it's gonna be a new phase. But we're also, who knows, like you said, who knows what they might do with them moving forward. I could see them coming out in the Defenders, especially with them bringing out the, you know, what's it called, the Thunderbolts and all that stuff. So, yeah, I just really like him. I could see him doing well. Kevin Feige, he has a lot of things up his sleeve that I can't wait for him to reveal. I'll tell you that much.
Definitely. I think, as far as him being a prominent member, it waits to be seen. I think they're just kind of because it was on a smaller medium, but even though fans really liked his portrayal, and probably he was the most popular character of the Defenders from the Netflix series, but him being a prominent member, I hope we get to see that more, just because there's so much potential and so much more that you could do with this character and just how beloved he was by everybody. I think they're going to kind of wait to see. Hopefully, we'll at least get to see him interacting with Spider-Man. I think that's probably one of the relationships besides Deadpool being introduced into the MCU that people are really excited to see, because obviously these characters, they operate in close proximity to each other and had a long-standing relationship in the comics, and we're really hoping we get to see some of that pop off onto the big screen, especially just because, you know, one is a very dark character and very violent, and the other is more compassionate. Doesn't a lot of those like night and day differences that like you really see like with characters like Batman and Superman. And I really think that would be a great pairing. At least if they don't do much with him, I hope we at least see him interact with Spider-Man a lot. And I'm super excited because he's a great actor. Daredevil is one of my favorite characters, and it just ended on we really just wanted more with Daredevil in the Netflix series, especially just because we knew that Bullseye was still going to be around. So I'm wondering just what exactly the confusing thing for me is it going to be, is it those reports true on it's going to be in a reboot? Because I know like they didn't.
I hope not.
Yeah, I
Hopefully
hope not too. I do hope that because we knew that they existed in the same universe, but there was still in the movies there was really no mention of these characters being around operating in New York. We obviously heard about things like the Battle of New York and different things going on on Netflix, but we didn't really hear about in the films about other characters operating in New York, which is I was really disappointed because that would have been a cool way to just do something small and hint that they were around or they were operating. So it's gonna be a little bit weird, but I'm super excited and we can't wait.
My prediction is that he's going to be in in the Multiverse of Madness, the Doctor Strange movie, and we're gonna meet Ben Affleck's Daredevil in there as well. And they're gonna team up, and it's gonna be glorious. The triumphant return of Ben Affleck as Daredevil in the Multiverse of Madness.
Well, I still feel like he is gonna
think
make
it's gonna
a
happen.
cameo appearance in No Way Home.
Definitely.
I hope so.
I think that would probably be a pretty smart way to do it because the thing that this reminds me of is that Spider-Man, the animated series episode where Peter is framed and J. Jonah Jameson hires Matt Murdock in what?
It's 3 episodes, bro.
Yeah, that's definitely what this reminds me of. I was like, this is just an easy way to introduce this character and not have to worry about, okay, how are we going to include him in the plot? Just make him his lawyer and we can see him pop up sometime later.
Do you remember what they did with those 3 episodes when the Daredevil movie came out? Marvel tried to market it as a brand new animated film about Daredevil and Spider-Man.
Yeah, because I think I had that was back then with those old shows that they would release episodes in kind of like a movie, or they would release them they would release those episodes like in an arc, which is weird, right?
3 episodes together and call it a film. Just cut out the bits in between. And I remember I got that as a kid. I was like, hey, I saw this already, damn it. Regardless, I just had to bring that up.
Yeah, so super cool. Charlie Cox is back, and it waits to be seen where exactly we're going to see him pop up as Daredevil in the future, but this is exciting news. And moving on from that, Spider-Man No Way Home producer confirms Tom Holland isn't going anywhere. I think it was Amy Pascal who said that, and that he's going to be appearing in 3 more films as Spider-Man. So this is obviously a little bit funny because of that fact. I think literally a week before this, Tom Holland had said that if he's going to be playing the character past 30, he's done something wrong, and he wanted to find a way to wean himself off from this role and to include Miles Morales at an earlier time. But I honestly felt like it was maybe just a money grab, or maybe him just being like, oh, well, I don't know about this, and just to try to negotiate for more money, because obviously this character isn't going anywhere. This is Marvel's flagship character. How long have they waited to include him in the MCU and all that they went through for that? And for him to just walk away after 5 years, he's the Tony Stark of this phase, honestly.
You know why he did that? It's exactly for you said. It's money. It's to scare them into negotiating a better deal. Because like right now, I swear to God, I feel like for the past year, Tom Holland is everywhere. He is all over social media. He is constantly on television. He is being sold by Hollywood as the next big thing. He's going to be Fred Astaire in a new movie or whatever. So
Nathan Drake.
Yeah, I mean that's a good.
He's he's just like invading the world of video game fandom.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure, like the way that his career is like really like he's everywhere. I swear to God, he's everywhere.
No, you're right.
In Hollywood. So I'm pretty sure he's just using his new status to negotiate more money. And you know what? I can't blame him. If you're like, I'm Spider-Man. Maybe it's arrogant, but I'm like one of the hottest things in Hollywood. Pay me.
Well, the fact that he's dating Zendaya too, is putting him out there as well, because she's popular as heck.
You know that when Tom Holland was younger, there's an interview with him where he said that his celebrity crush was Zendaya, and now he's in.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Now he's with her. He said that he wanted to play Spider-Man in a movie one day. Now he's playing Spider-Man. And what was the video game? I forgot.
Well, Uncharted.
I forgot.
Uncharted. He said that's his favorite video game. He is doing all those things. He literally manifested his entire life in one interview. Good for him. I wish we could.
Awesome. I do remember that interview. I really forgot about it. Wow, awesome for him.
Yeah, but everything he said.
Kick it into existence and it manifests itself.
Mm-hmm. So
if you got the looks and the talent and all those things I don't have, I'm trying to think of what else. I'll get back to you guys on that. But
okay.
Awesome for him. What do you think, Ruby?
Well, yeah, no, I think that's great. It's like you were saying, like a couple weeks ago, he was the one that was saying that, nah, if I was, playing Spider-Man at a certain age and I did something wrong. But then our most recent interview that he said, like, he was like, well, you know what? This is like, I want to have the opportunity to teach someone, like take someone under my arm, show them the ways, whether it's a female Spider-Man, with the way the multiverse is moving forward. So I love the move. I love the move because he's a great Spider-Man. I think I've said it a couple months ago. I've said it before, where I think like he's the best version of Peter Parker we've ever had because he's like he's like the real high school teenager that we can relate to for a majority of the times that we see him. So I think it's a great move. I like it.
And you know what? Tobey Maguire played Seabiscuit while he was still Spider-Man, so he could suck it up and still play his other roles.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So awesome.
I like
Awesome.
Tom Holland a lot as Spider-Man. I think he's really good in the role. I think he's very likable. And like I said, we've been mostly dealing with the Peter Parker of like high school, and we haven't like seen the grown-up Spider-Man out in New York, taking pictures yet and all that. So it would feel like kind of a cheat to build up that MCU Spider-Man and never let him take off as like the leading superhero that he was always meant to be. So I never believed for a second that he was never not going to be Spider-Man for more.
Honestly, that was what we were all saying. Like the whole, I think once that happened, once that came out, I sent that to the group chat, and I'm like, this is all BS. This is a power play. This is a money negotiating situation. This is all it is. There's just no way there's no way that they're gonna let this character walk away. Sony and Marvel. There's just no way.
Especially with the pre-ticket sales for.
For real, dude.
No, they're not going to let it clash. They're finally getting this. I mean, I feel like this is like the Spider-Man movie that MCU fans have been waiting for. I'm hoping that's what it is.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, and if it leads to another trilogy, we get to see more villains. Hopefully, he gets to face off against a redeemed Tom Hardy Venom.
Please. Well, man, they're giving us a glimpse of the Sinister Six with this film, so I mean, we already know it's not going to be a Sinister Six, but I don't know. I think I heard a rumor that's in the works, but it might not be with these same characters. It might be with other characters, like with the Vulture and maybe Morbius and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So good things to come. This is really exciting news. Obviously, it was what we already knew, but it's great that we're gonna be having him for the future and that he's gonna be the face of this next phase going forward.
That's for sure.
So moving on from that too, it's actually kind of funny. Amy Pascal also said in a recent interview that Venom 3 is confirmed in the works, probably finally a showdown between Spider-Man and Venom. And that's obviously Jimmy had just talked about that too, but what would you guys like to see done differently in Venom 3 to make you guys a bit more intrigued and a bit more excited for the project?
I like humor in my movies, but the Venom movies have way too much humor. So if I want to see another Venom, dial it down a little bit and give us the Venom that we want to see. That's all. Just Tom Hardy's a great choice for the role, but I feel like he's being wasted in whatever the hell it is Sony thinks it's doing with that franchise. And I mean, they're making money. It's beyond me. I guess it's just because it's Venom. But
I agree with you, Jimmy. I feel like Venom should be a little bit more darker. They should. But here's what now that you mentioned that, here's a little thing I want you guys to think about. I feel like they gave glimpse of, who knows, the third one. It might be a little darker, because if you remember, Venom is always giving glimpses like, I want to eat humans. I'm tired of these, especially on the recent one. I'm tired of these chickens. Like, I don't want to eat these chickens no more. Like I want to eat humans. They make me stronger, healthier. For him, it's like, that's healthier for me, which I think is pretty funny. But I feel like, yeah, they're giving a little glimpse of the darker side of Venom, which we all know he is. Like, he wants to eat humans. He wants at least bad guys. And then didn't they end up making a deal towards the end? Like, if you kill Carnage, I'll let you kill anybody now. Or something similar to that, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Where like, if you kill him, you can kill anybody now. Like, that's our deal now. So after that deal, I feel like, who knows, maybe the third one, if he sticks up to that deal, like, it could be a little darker.
Make him a villain, not an anti-hero. Make him a straight-out villain.
Well, yeah, exactly. Maybe, like, Venom gets a little bit too much taste for that blood in the third one, and then that's where Peter has to come in and, like, slow his roll. Like, yo, dude, like, Spider-Man has to come in and be like, hey, yo, Venom, like, what's going on, dog? You can't be just, eating all these people. And yeah, I feel like that's something that could happen.
Yeah. Definitely agree with you guys on that. I think those are just things that we had talked about before, and probably one of the things that really held down the two films for me was just that incoherence on what exactly the plot and the style for these films want to be. Does it want to be something dark and serious, or does it want to be zany, wacky, and out of its freaking mind? Which is a lot of those contrasting styles just didn't gel well together, especially with the character like this. And the last thing I would have ever pictured to see in a Venom film is Venom at a rave. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and everyone thought he
I
was.
never would have pictured in a million years. I mean, I would take emo Peter Parker dancing to James Brown up and down the streets like a douchebag all day instead of raving Venom any day.
And not
honestly.
only that, I wouldn't even believe he was a human in steroids. I would not even believe that. I would be like, nah, dude, you're too huge, bro.
He looks out of this world,
yeah,
right?
I was like, dog, bro, not even, dog.
Yeah.
I would believe a robot, like a transformer in front of me more than that right there. Like, nah,
yeah. So I would say it's been very mixed. Like people have either really hated it. I would say definitely, I wouldn't say really liked it, either really hated it or it was just mad to them. So I think that's probably a good way for them to go about it, is just treat him as a villain for a little while. If they need to have some kind of dilemma where they come together and they have a partnership like in the comics, they can do that. But just make him a straight villain, and I think that's going to fix a lot of those problems on those kind of contrasting styles. But I think it's going to be in a better hands in this partnership with the MCU because they kind of seem to understand these characters better. So I think those are the things we can look out for, and I think that would make me more intrigued for this next film going forward.
Yeah.
So moving on from that too, we had our first look at Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
It's Spider-Man Day today.
Exactly. Well, at least because it all makes sense. Yeah. We're talking about Spider-Man. Yeah. So first thoughts, and could there be a crossover with the MCU given how successful and popular it is?
Across the Spider-Verse?
Yeah.
How would they do that? I mean, I guess they could do like it's animated in one's live action. I guess they could. I don't know. Maybe if there is a way to do it, I don't know what it would be, but that doesn't mean it can't be done. There's a part of me that feels like this universe kind of exists well on its own. Everybody seems to like the Spider-Verse, especially the first movie. So that's really hard to say.
Listen, Joe, what are your thoughts just on the trailer?
Oh, the trailer was really good. I'm excited for it. The animation looks terrific as usual. I like the whole Spider-Gwen thing. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. I mean, I love the first one. I thought the first one was an awesome film. I think it's probably among some of the best superhero movies ever made, animated or live action. So I'm hoping they carry that magic over.
Definitely.
Repeat the question for me again, Nick.
Oh, so the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, we just got that trailer, and just what are your first thoughts on it? And because of its popularity, do you think there could be any kind of chance for a crossover with the MCU?
I really liked the trailer. I thought it was pretty cool. The animation, the way it looks and all that. I feel like it pops out more than the first one, which I thought the first one was already cool. I feel like, and especially after introducing, Spider-Man 2099, I know they give him, a little glimpse at the end credits from the first one. But now that I've seen him in the trailer, I want to know what part he's playing in this in this new Across the Spider-Verse, and who the big antagonist is going to be. No one even knows who it is yet. So I'm like, okay, well, and Spider-Gwen too, damn, what are you doing? She's trying to convince this Miles from that, to get into some trouble, but not forcing him. She's basically trying to make it his decision to leave and go help. I really don't know. I have a lot of questions, bro, to be honest. But I'm excited for it. And then the other question, to go to the other question, I do believe there will be some sort of crossover. So I don't know if it'll be right then and there, but down the line maybe, because I believe I don't know if it's the directors or the creators that that came up with the Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse. They already said that all Spider-Mans are basically in the whole Spider-Verse. So even whether it's live action or animated, they're in the same Spider-Verse. So that's why I believe that there will be a crossover some way somehow. And then I already said that they've already found a a Miles. They're looking for a Miles Morales for a live action, spin off. So I feel like who knows if there's a crossover between the animated into the live action, that Miles could be the live action.
I mean, if there's
Sorry.
more than one version of Peter Parker, then of course there can be more than
Yeah.
one version of Miles Morales. So that makes sense.
I'm super excited for it. Looks really good. I was pretty blown away because we haven't really seen a good, or I don't even remember the last good live action, the last good animated superhero story or our feature film. I don't remember that last one. What is that? Has there been one that I'm missing, or that I'm just like I was thinking on that the other day, and I'm like, I don't think
the Spider-Verse.
besides Into the
I
Spider-Verse.
mean, live action.
No, animated.
I mean,
No, he's talking about animated. That he doesn't remember.
Theatrical.
Yeah, the feature film release.
Oh, okay. I mean, DC has done some awesome like animated films, but they're not released in theater.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Feature film, though. And I think this also, some of them were hit and miss from that shared universe they did that started from Justice League War all the way to Dark Justice League Apocalypse War. Some of those were hits and misses, and there was just some confusing things. So as far as feature, like this is really cool because maybe then this will give more of incentive for these companies to do more animated stuff. And obviously we had seen Marvel is also doing that on the smaller screen, but it would be cool to actually see them actually pay attention to more and put more money aside and give more of those creative opportunities for people going forward.
Yeah. I mean, The Long Halloween was really good. 2-part animated movie, but I guess it wasn't released in theaters. Those are still feature films, they're just not theatrically released.
Isn't a feature film, doesn't it have to be released theatrically? Or is it just theatrically?
No, feature film is as long as it meets like the minimum requirements, like how long a film it has to be considered to be like considered. They meet the minimum requirements, or like an hour.
Okay, so my thing was more than films that animated films that have been released theatrically.
Nah, it seems they're not. I don't know. I feel like studios probably feel that that's more of a gamble, but at the same time, they're cheaper to make than the live action movies. So
exactly.
How much of a gamble as it is, because you're not going to be risking nearly as much money.
Yeah. I think it's just whenever something comes along like this that really flips that idea or that thought upside down, and then it's like, wow, there's a whole new market for this, and wow, this is really good. But also, it really just goes back to show, like, if you just have a good, compelling story, great direction, and a great visionary helming it, then obviously that's just a recipe for success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the only reason I really brought up was, could there be a crossover with the MCU? Is just given its popularity and given how critically acclaimed it was, and knowing like would Marvel be paying attention to that and be like, is there a chance for a crossover?
I mean, the last movie I could think of that did like a mix between live action and animation was like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That was dead.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago, but I mean, they did it before.
Space Jam. I mean, I get you want to. Count Space Jam.
Oh yeah. You know what? They could do it. There's no reason they can't.
Yeah,
you're
definitely.
right. I completely forgot Space Jam. My bad. Massive.
Space Jam 2.
Yeah.
Recently, but
Space Jam.
Yeah. I think it'd be a good opportunity to do a kind of crossover, just because it'd be a cool way to kind of connect those dots and have, you go from animated, you go to live action. Like, heck, maybe they can even get to a point where they can have the voice actors reprise their roles in a live action setting.
Live action.
That would be pretty cool. That's just something that we have never seen before. And that was just kind of getting me excited about the possibilities. And now we live in an era where anything is possible. I mean, heck, we have Alfred Molina, Jamie Foxx, and Willem Dafoe reprising their roles from previous, and Jamie Foxx reprising the roles from previous Spider-Man franchises. So I just feel like the possibilities are endless, and what could really happen, it remains to be seen. And all it just takes is that one spark or that one idea, and hey, let's run with it.
That's for sure.
So a lot of exciting stuff to come. We will let you guys know as more develops. And other exciting news that has happened recently is it's been revealed that a new connected universe of Power Rangers TV shows and movies are coming to Netflix, including the planned 1990 set feature film previously set up at Paramount Pictures. Anything you guys would like to see that would make it more intriguing or pique your curiosity? because I don't know. I'm a huge Power Rangers fan. I mean, I think you guys know this, just given how much how I grew up with all with that whole franchise as a kid. So I don't know if it's as revered to you guys as it is to me. So I kind of wanted to get your guys' thought process on this.
Well, what I would want, I mean, I guess it's been a while. I haven't seen any of the recent Power Rangers in a while. I growing up, I really loved Power Rangers too, and I still have some of their comics too, where I read through some of them. I don't buy the whole storylines, but I still skim through and read through them because I've always been a fan of Power Ranger, or just in general. I've never done it myself, or just the martial arts aspect of it, the fighting aspect of it. The choreography. It's like what I want to see better, I guess, is pique my interest, is because I've always noticed how sometimes the hits look too fake sometimes. So I just wanted to look more, I guess, on point when it comes to making it look more realistic.
Definitely.
I want to see the return of the Putty Patrol.
yes.
That's what I want to see. And those weird noises that they used to make. Do you remember? Like they used to make these weird noises.
Oh, yeah.
I want to see that. And maybe I love the Power Rangers growing up. I haven't watched them as much as I've gotten older. I wonder if they could find a balance where they could try to aim it a little bit more at an older audience without not making it not for kids. I mean, it has to appeal to kids.
Right.
But maybe make it just a little bit more adult. That way it could have a wider range, a little slightly more grown up, and bring the Putty Patrol back and let them make all those weird noises, and I'll check it out.
Yeah, I mean, with the way technology is now, they look way better the way they're made. Back then, you could tell the Putty thing was all fake. Who knows? It might look even more realistic now.
I mean, if Netflix will, I'm pretty sure they would spend a lot more money. I mean, they're not going to make it look like television from like the early '90s, and like, I feel like since those days, like the production value and the quality of television has gone up quite a bit. So I would think that would be a given. I could be wrong, but I would think that would be a given.
Definitely. It's actually really funny, Jamie, because I was literally about to say the same thing. I think the only thing that I would like to see, because there were still generations of Power Rangers going on right now. Obviously, on Nickelodeon, mainly all for kids, just the way the design of it and the way that the characters act, very, very much for kids. But the live action film that they had, that reboot in 2017, was definitely PG-13. It was a lot of teen angst, very gritty, dark. Not exactly something where we would see the Power Rangers are. When we were kids, if we were seeing that, it probably wouldn't have hit the same mark for us because it wasn't made for us. So I would like to see a combination of that, to where maybe they're appealing to an older demographic, but they're still realizing, hey, this is dumb fun in the end. This was made for kids originally. So let's hang on to that. Let's find a way to balance that both, because I just felt like what they were going for, it didn't really work. And I remember my oldest nephew, he was 7 at the time, and I took him to see it, and I don't think it was what he was expecting. I remember I told him, like, hey, I'm going to go pick you up from school. We're going to go watch Power Rangers. Okay, cool. And then when we got there, he was just kind of like, why is this all dark? Why is this the way that they are? I even think he got scared of the putties that they had, because they were rock monsters. So I would like to see a good balance of that, a good way to say, okay, let's not make it so dumb, so over the top, so kiddie, but let's not make it all teen angst and all gritty and all screw ups or all misery and weird stuff like that. That doesn't really fit the Power Rangers that well.
Yeah, Power Rangers doesn't need to go the DC route. That's
yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, that's exactly what it reminded me of. I'm just like, oh my God, this thing feels like, in this generation, in this day and age, everything has to be dark and gritty if it's some kind of superhero spectacle.
Yeah.
But pretty cool to see. I'm a nostalgic guy, and Power Rangers was one of the main things that really got me interested in superheroes. So anything that they do, I'm going to be all for it, and I'm going to be like, yes. I'm going to be like Nick Cage whenever he gets a script for whatever movie, and his agent doesn't even get a chance to reveal the synopsis or the character he's playing, and he just says yes right away.
You know that he's playing Dracula next, right?
See? Exactly what I mean.
No, you really believe that?
No,
he's
official. It's real. He's playing
official?
Dracula.
What?
Yeah.
I thought
he said that he signed on without reading the script.
See?
I told you, I'm not making that up.
No way.
because it's Dracula.
Because I heard there was talks that. Remember, I said Ethan Hawke was supposed to come out in one of the Morbius, no,
He's gonna
the
be
Moon Knight movie or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I heard supposedly Ethan Hawke. I mean, we still don't know what role he's gonna play. I know he's gonna be some sort of villain or something.
in Moon Knight.
Yeah, in Moon Knight at least. But I heard supposedly Ethan Hawke was gonna turn into freaking Dracula.
I mean, Dracula
looks
is
like
one of those characters that's like, it's been played by I don't know how many actors at this point.
Yeah, a bunch of different actors.
It's been incorporated into comic books, into superhero culture. It has its own. Dracula, I think, at this point is such a cultural thing that it can invade every aspect of pop culture. So yeah, I can see Ethan Hawke doing the more comic book one, and then Nicolas Cage doing whatever it is he's doing.
Nicolas Cageism.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Exciting news, and I can't wait to see what goes on with Power Rangers. So moving on from that, we also had some comic news and some TMNT news that was revealed at Comic-Con during their panel. So there's going to be something going on with The Last Ronin, which one of the creators have said start getting used to the Roninverse. So something big is planned for the TMNT for 2022. I haven't read that run from the comics. I definitely want to get into it more because I knew there was a lot of good stuff going on with it. So now that it's getting its own universe with it, that definitely makes me more excited and more ready to just start reading those stories. So big stuff to come for the TMNT going in 2022. And what we also already knew too, but was cool to finally get a full confirmation, is director Shang-Chi 2 is confirmed, with director Destin Daniel Cretton returning. And that was a given, just how widely popular, how successful it was, how much positive reviews that film got. We knew that was coming. So good stuff to see. We hope we get to see Iron Fist included. It would be cool to kind of do the Masters of Kung Fu. Or there was also a run where Shang-Chi was also a part of the Heroes for Hire. So it'd be cool to kind of do another take on the Heroes for Hire. But remains to be seen. It'd be a cool way, since they were wanting to reboot Iron Fist already. It would be a cool way to do that. So well deserved, and we'll let you guys know of any updates with that film coming up. And also, we got a new trailer for the Peacemaker series premiering in January. Expectations for the show, and where would you like to see the character pop up or interact with next?
I hope the show kind of retains some of that James Gunn flavor that was brought to the Suicide Squad film. Peacemaker's a really funny character. I'm pretty sure a lot of it is going to be parody, because he, as we mentioned on that podcast, he's kind of a parody of Captain America, taken to the most extreme, ridiculous.
Very extreme.
Ends. So I imagine it's going to be very irreverent, sarcastic humor.
Very black comedy.
Yeah, black comedy, very violent. Probably going to poke at some of the MCU. I'm pretty sure, especially the type of character that Peacemaker is, there's going to be a lot of joking around or kidding it. Be interesting to see where it goes. I mean, it was one of the more interesting characters in the Suicide Squad. Not one of the most likable characters, really, but one of the easiest to watch, and the most entertaining.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, I think just anything with John Cena. John Cena just has that certain kind of flair and that charismatic performance where even though he's playing a completely irredeemable character and probably the worst character in that movie, but it's John Cena. So you go and you watch it, and you're just still baffled by his conviction on he cherishes peace with all his heart, no matter how many men, women, and children have to die. I think that line in the way he says it, completely deadpan. Like I as ridiculous as it is, I can't help but laugh at it just because it's John Cena.
Yeah, I mean, wonder how they're gonna. I mean, I just don't get how he survived a shot to the throat. How does that?
Well,
happen?
I mean, did it really happen though? I mean, you can't see him. Was he even there?
Yes.
Are you sure?
There. I'm pretty sure I wasn't hallucinating it.
I mean, he's not there though.
No.
So how would you know if you're not hallucinating him?
I don't know.
Kidding,
I mean, I'm not on I'm not in any form of psychedelics as far as I can know at the moment, unless somebody's drugged me before this episode.
And I think that going into it, that we knew that early on that it was announced they were going to be making a Peacemaker series. We knew that for sure wasn't going to be a character who was going to die. And obviously that it felt a little anticlimactic when that happened because we're like, he's not dead. He's having his own, unless it's going to be a prequel series, but I don't think that was going to be the case. It seemed like if they're bringing John Cena into this franchise, into this universe, they're going to want him around for the future.
I'm just curious, like with these DC shows, how far they're going to cross into the movies, because it feels like when we were talking earlier about like the Daredevil series, where I mean the shows acknowledge the movies, but the movies don't acknowledge the shows. I mean, obviously because the movies are bigger and the people in the shows aspire to that, and I'm not sure the people in the movies aspire to television. But it would be interesting if they put more direct connections with the DCEU and try to plug it in and make it maybe a little bit the television and the shows and the movies a little bit more interconnected than what Marvel was doing with its Netflix Marvel shows. But we'll see. It gets to
well, I think there's a good chance for that, especially just because we have that Penguin series coming, and that's we fully know that Colin Farrell is reprising his role now. So I think with that in mind, there's probably going to be direct connections, and I think that'd be a cool way to kind of do something different. Is where they acknowledge that it's all a shared universe and everything is happening all together. So I think that's a cool way for them to kind of set their own TV shows apart and have like direct correlations to what's going on in the movies.
You know what? I want Superman to meet Peacemaker because he'll probably be disgusted by him.
While Peacemaker is probably in awe or a huge fan of Superman, that'd be very, very interesting, excited. What about you, Ruben? What is your expectations for Peacemaker, and where should the character pop up or interact with next?
Well, Dan, I don't know where he should pop up next, but I know he's a cool character. I think he's pretty funny. I think, like I said, when it comes to John Cena portraying the role, I think he's a perfect fit because I know he's been in a lot of comedies beforehand, and when I saw him in the Suicide Squad movie, I thought, all right, this was pretty funny. Like he can play the role, I guess. You know, I didn't read a lot of comics on the Peacemaker, so I don't really know how well he portrayed, the role. But from what I've seen, I thought, all right, it's pretty cool. But moving forward, where I would want to see him and who do I want to see him along with? Then I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a tough question for me to answer. But I guess if I'm thinking about it right off the bat, I would agree with Jimmy. Since I would want to see him some way somehow with Superman because I think Superman would really be disgusted by him. But other than that, I think I would probably want to see him go up against freaking what is it? Who did they bring in this movie? Who was Idris Elba again?
Bloodsport.
I want to see him go up against Deathstroke. That's for sure. Peacemaker.
I mean, I feel like the Joker would be a big fan of Peacemaker.
I think he'd be one of his army, his sergeant in arms or something like that.
No, I feel like Joker would play along. He's a sergeant in arms, and at some point screw him over and like take things over. And I think Peacemaker would be stupid enough to trust him at first. I don't know. We'll see.
Or probably could convince them that what they're doing is for the protection of the planet, and he's gonna be doing the ultimate act of preserving freedom, justice, liberty. I definitely feel like the Joker could manipulate him into doing something like that. They would fit a character like Peacemaker.
Yeah, totally.
So for me, I think this is going to be a great show. Obviously, I've always loved John Cena, and then whenever I'm not gonna lie, but The Marine was my favorite film growing up. It still is my favorite film. Yeah, hate on me all you want, Jimmy. I know you want to.
Yeah, he did do that.
I'm kidding, but it's really cool to see his evolution as an actor, and especially probably the past 5 or 6 years where he's developed a certain reputation as a comedic actor, and it's cool to see that. And now we're getting this, and he's the perfect actor for this character. So I have high expectations for this show. I think it's going to be really good. James Gunn wrote the first episode, and it seems like it's going a great direction. I don't know how redeemable this character is at this point, just given everything we've seen him do in Suicide Squad 2.
But you know what? He doesn't have to be redeemable.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I know we had talked about how irredeemable he is, but no matter what, so I'm wondering if that's also going to play a factor. That we have John Cena, we don't need to make this character. Do we really need to make him redeemable on any aspect?
No.
I'm wondering if they're just going to run with it and just be like, how far can we go? What can we get away with to where this character is completely irredeemable, but that allows people to kind of internalize that and say, hey, but this is still John Cena, so this is still good for us.
I mean, I feel like comic books, especially comic book entertainment, has reached the point where it's breached just being about like, you know, the main characters being the heroes, the likable characters. Because I feel like a lot of like movies and television have for years have been doing characters who are not very redeemable. I mean, if you think about like TV, like Walter White on Breaking Bad is a terrible person, but people love him. Or even Tony Soprano on The Soprano. Like, I just feel like, you know, in the Joker movie, I mean, we don't have to, storytelling doesn't have to revolve around redeemable or likable characters. I think we're at that point where we could have villains, and like the Penguin show, I think it's interesting where they're not just exploring the good guys. I feel like there's something to be said for exploring irredeemable characters.
I think the main thing that needs to be the driving point for those shows, though, is showing those characters as human and showing that side of them. Because obviously, you know, Walter White, for all his faults, we even though he was irredeemable towards the end of the show, we definitely understood his plight, understood what he was going through. We sympathized because he was just trying to protect his family's future and preserve money for them, making sure that they were good after he had died. And I think with this character, we feel that same vein, because even though he's going about it the completely wrong way, and it's, you know, we look at him as a joke, as a parody, he's still preserving peace, and he's still doing in his mind his best to protect the planet. Right. And I think those kind of things, we still, even though this is an irredeemable character and it leads him to do unspeakable things and things that we're just like, bro, this guy is just a horrible person, there's still that humanistic quality to where he's not just causing havoc and killing for the sake of doing it, but because in his mind it's for the greater good.
You have to kind of humanize the characters of the villains, otherwise it's not going to be interesting. I don't think that characters who are all evil and pure evil and like nothing but that are very interesting. I mean, as we saw with like the Joker movie, I mean, he's a terrible person. What he does is really awful, but at the same time, I think it built up enough understanding from the audience where we could understand why that version of the Joker was the way he was. We could understand his plight, his like feelings. So yeah, so long as you humanize it without like compromising the more evil or the nastier parts or the rougher parts of the personality. So I don't think that's too hard of a balance. Yeah. Like, I mean, bad people are human beings too, and they have their own fears, desires, loved ones, as much as we kind of forget that. So
yeah, Suicide Squad 2 showed us that.
Yeah.
Exactly. The Suicide Squad.
The Suicide Squad. Yeah.
And what would I like to see this character pop up next or interact with? I think you guys have taken it. I would really like to see him interact with Superman. The Joker would be another one, because the Joker could manipulate him into some kind of event and have him completely unaware that it was all for the Joker's sick, twisted sense of humor. Mm-hmm. And I think those are really very good stories to tell. So those
I think the Joker could take his patriotism and his want to do the right thing and pervert it and spin it back on him and kind of like trick him, like, oh, you thought you were doing like the right or the patriotic and everything, but you got tricked. So I can picture the Joker really taking advantage of,
for sure,
definitely,
I guess, his better intentions.
Definitely. And lastly, we have other comic news in the summer, and this is actually a topic that was kickstarted by Jimmy, so this actually all goes credit to him. In the summer, the previous summer, Superman 78, written by Rob Venditti and art by Wilfredo Torres, was released, which follows Christopher Reeve's version of the character by director Richard Donner to tell new stories set in his own world. How cool was it of DC to pay homage to one of the most revered comic book adaptations? And could we see more of comics like these of past universes in the future? Like, do you think we could see a comic series of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, of Ben Affleck's Daredevil?
Possibly. I think there's a market for people who are like fans of like certain versions of a character, or that got cut off before they had like a chance to really play their stories out. I mean, I like the Superman thing. For one, I love Christopher Reeve's Superman. I'm still convinced to this day that the first two Superman movies, even with all the advances in technology over the years, are still some of the best pieces of storytelling that we've seen in comic book movies to date. I love Christopher Reeve's version. This is from what I understand what they're doing. I mean, I could be wrong. From everything that I'm reading, and I'm gonna catch up on it sometime soon, they're kind of hinting that Michael Keaton's Batman exists in that universe with little hints in this comic book. And I don't think it's a coincidence that this came out right soon after that Batman '89 comic book exploring Michael Keaton's universe came out. Especially with the upcoming Flash movie that's going to be exploring the multiverse concept, and you're going to be meeting Michael Keaton's Batman. I think it makes sense that they would kind of retcon it and make it so that that old version of Superman and that old version of Batman exist in the same universe for the sake of like DC's multiverse. When the Flash ends up in Michael Keaton's Batman universe, it would stand to reason that it's not a universe where only Batman exists. It's supposed to be a DC multiverse. So I guess it would make sense that Christopher Reeve's Superman would have been the Superman of that universe. So I kind of think they're kind of building this up for something very specific. I mean, as much as I love the idea, I don't think that DC would just randomly revive Superman 78 comic books for no reason. So I think that there's something a little bit more going on with it.
Definitely. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely feel like there's with the way they did that comic, I feel like definitely anybody else, if they really want to, if they had the right creative mind, or if they have a right creative idea to work that story with any other, storyline, I think it's possible. It's just like I said, when one person does it, it's sure for someone else to follow, and that goes with anything else, any idea that phones, cars, everything. I feel like when someone comes up with an idea, there's someone else that's gonna come up with their own way with a different character. So it's like I said, man. It just takes one person to start a trend, and sure enough, people will follow. So I feel like, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, like I said, as long as it's creative, it's like the What If series in Marvel. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's something sidetracked, something that they're imagining could happen if it would have played out the way it could have played out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a bad idea. I really do like, and like I said, with the Reeves whole ass, like I think it's pretty awesome that they used it on Superman, because Superman was basically the first superhero we all came to know. So I think it's basically starting all over again.
I mean, those are the movies that kickstarted the superhero. Those are the first superhero movies. Were Christopher Reeve Superman. We wouldn't be here today on the show without those films.
Yeah. So back then, when you had a superhero film, every 3-4 years, if anything.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Ruben?
Oh, that's what I was saying. Like, it's like you were saying how the Superman film, it started with Christopher Reeves, but then like it also did it with the comics. The comics, it was Superman that started it all. So I think it's a pretty cool trend. So who knows what Superman might do 30 years down the line from now to start its own trend again. But I think it's a pretty smart move that they used. Christopher Reeves, 78 Superman. I like it.
I'm pretty confident that with the new Flash movie and like the DC multiverse, I'm pretty confident there's going to be some kind of nod to Christopher Reeve's version of Superman in there at some point. Like they're going to acknowledge that. Obviously, Christopher Reeve is no longer. I mean, rest in peace. Rest in power.
R.I.P. Yeah.
R.I.P. He is no longer here to like reprise that role. But I don't see why they can't nod to that universe. Maybe he's dead in that universe already, but he'll have been like an icon of great hope within that version of the DC universe. So I expect to see some kind of nod to Christopher Reeves. I mean, the way that they're opening multiverse is so wide in both Marvel and DC. There's no reason why they wouldn't at this point.
And not only that, one more point I want to put out there is we've already seen comics that are how would I call them? They're adaptations of the film. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not surprised that they did do it, but it's awesome that they used the Christopher Reeve version of it all.
Definitely. So I wondered too if that was the reason they went ahead and did this, because that would be a way for them to connect those dots and connect those universes, because it only just made sense with everything that they were doing. But at the same time, it is pretty cool because obviously that was what kicked off the boom of the modern superhero story and really what led us to where we are today. So I felt it was a good way to do that, but also pay homage and pay respects to what came before and what helped us get here.
Yeah.
And it's just really cool to see because now you're at a point to where okay, maybe you can't. It'd be pretty much impossible to do another kind of film or connect to do some kind of sequel spinoff, but in a medium that's very niche like comics, that's a cool way to just like, oh well, we can still tell stories set in that world, set in that universe. So why don't we just do that? And it's really cool to see just like the kind of opportunities and the possibilities that are endless with all of that.
I think so. And it must be said with regard, and I'm saying this as a Batman fan, as a Batman fanatic, I have to admit, Superman is the king of superheroes. I think if you try to debate that, you're just wrong at this
You're
point.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're wrong. He's the king of superheroes.
Just given his legacy, his influence, and how long he was at the top for, it's stupid of anybody to say that any character relatively comes close.
Superman, superheroes are named after, they're taken directly from his name. It's superheroes based on Superman, the name Superman. So
exactly.
He is like the Big Bang of all of it. It's funny that he's the Big Bang because he seems to possess every fucking power.
He does have everything, dude.
Yeah, he has everything.
Laser vision. He has that frost out of his mouth. Super strength, super speed.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that this could set up a trend of comics that take place in other characters, franchises, or universes? Like, could we see Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, have his own comic series?
Yeah.
Can we see? We already see Michael Keaton.
Why not?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say earlier. Like, yes, that's how this trend starts. If one person could do it, I could see it happening with. Tobey Maguire is a perfect example, as Jimmy and you just said right now.
Yeah, with the new Spider-Man movie coming out next week, No Way Home, you're gonna see a resurgence in popularity of Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and even Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. So who knows? Like, Marvel might look at that and say, "Hey, we need to like capitalize on this and kind of, I hate to say it, but exploit it a little bit." Like, okay, let's give the people what they want.
Yeah, definitely.
So I could see it happening.
Definitely. Awesome stuff to see. So that's all the news we have for today. And I wanted, because I don't know if everybody was aware, I kind of totally forgot, but Comic-Con and LA Comic-Con happened just recently. They happened, I think within the span of a week. It was just crazy because like I had no idea what was going on, or maybe I was just so consumed in my work I forgot. So what I wanted to do on today's episode was have us talk about our best memory that happened when we were at a con. So, Jimmy, why don't you go first?
As far as like Comic-Con goes, I have to be 100% honest.
Well, it's any con. Any con doesn't have to be a Comic-Con, but
well, I'm going to start off with Comic-Con since we are on a comic book podcast anyway. I've been outside Comic-Con, and I know obviously it's not as cool as being inside, but I feel like those are fun too. I got to see a really cool art show. All the cosplayers are there. And I went in 2019. So it was like right before the pandemic world that we're living in. And I love the energy, the cosplaying and everything like that. I'll be honest with you, I don't really feel confident enough to go cosplaying around. I don't, but it feels weird. I'll show up with like shirts and wearing like the gear of like different superheroes and stuff like that, but I feel uncomfortable going around cosplaying. But it's awesome to see all of the energy there, all of the fans. It's fun. The only other con that I've been to was a horror convention, and I actually went more as working at that time. I was assigned to go kind of cover a comic book a horror convention and interview some people. So that was fun. I know that was work, but it was interesting to get to like meet some of these people and actually get some time and interview people like Sid Haig and stuff like that.
Awesome.
Yeah, but
dude.
What about you?
My bad, go first, Jim. No, that's what I was gonna say. Like TorpedoCon was earlier this year, and that's why I agree with Jimmy when people say like, the whole cosplay aspect of it is pretty awesome. That's just a plus though. To me, my favorite part is just all the comic book lovers, superhero lovers that are there, because you're not the only one that's alone. You know, you have your brothers and sisters that you know that are all into this world. It's like its own world if you think about it, dude. So that's what I love about it more because anyone you talk to, dude, they have a certain love for a certain character, a certain hero, a certain villain, and you get intrigued. I get intrigued by it because it's like it's awesome because everyone has a different opinion. And yeah, you're gonna run into some people like like, oh, I'm a Batman lover, I'm a Superman lover, this and that, but everyone has a different reason, some way, somehow, and I think that's what's pretty awesome because all the people that are out there that have a love for the superhero community, comic book community, and I think that's the best part for me when it comes to the comp. But other than that, it's the cosplay because it's you just see a bunch of people, dressed up in their favorite character or character they feel like they want to dress up as. And
Some of those
I haven't
people
done
are
that myself.
convincing.
I'm gonna have to do that. I'm gonna have to do that sooner than later.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I mean, some of those costumes are really convincing. Some of the people came out straight, look like they got costumes straight from a movie set, and like it's
Crazy.
impressive. Like
Yeah,
it's really
very.
impressive how far people will go. And I feel the general lack of tension between like the fans because I feel like sometimes it's played up like this war between DC and Marvel. And,
Hmm.
I mean, obviously there's more than those two, but those are like the two main ones. I've kind of found that's mostly hype. That I think most Marvel fans enjoy DC comics, and most DC fans enjoy Marvel comics.
Mm,
And it's kind of like a fun gathering of different fan bases, all just
definitely.
sharing their love for whatever their favorite one is. They still have appreciation for the other side or the other one.
Definitely. As much as
Yep.
people probably won't admit it in public, or they'll be like, oh, Marvel reigns supreme, DC reigns supreme.
I don't like
Honestly,
both.
I really feel deep down in talking with them, they really have a love and appreciation for both sides, especially just given the fact that a lot of characters are very similar. And when you talk about characters like Batman and Superman and how they served as an inspiration for a lot of other characters, it only goes hand in hand that they would have some kind of admiration for the whatever rival company that
Yeah.
they say they don't like.
And I also think, like, I think even Kevin Feige had said it before, how how he kind of wants the a lot of the DC movies to be successful because he says like a lot of some people, the average layman who just wants to go to see a superhero movie, don't know the difference between DC and Marvel. And he says
Exactly.
it gives it a bad reputation, everything that they're doing when one of them fails or flops or they're bad or they get almost conflated with each other. So he's
Mhm.
even talked about how it's better for all of them to be doing good and making money and kind of
Exactly.
feeding each other, you know what I mean?
Definitely. And my experience is actually very different because I did not go that route that Jimmy had went on. Oh, I don't really feel cool with dressing up. I'm gonna just wear superhero shirts. I'm like, hell no. If I'm gonna go to these cons, and I gotta go full force. I gotta go dressed up as these characters.
Well, you're
And
Nightwing though.
well, I went as Nightwing
You're
like
Nick
twice.
Grayson. So
I went as Nightwing twice, and I went as the Blue Ranger, the Blue Ninja Ranger from the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger movie before. And it was a cool experience just to see how many people are very passionate, how many people love these characters and just really are into the fandom and the mythology and the lore. And you really just get that sense of that energy. And I really had a good time just walking around and taking pictures with people like, hey, your costume looks great, can I take a picture? Yeah, okay, cool. And just chopping it up and talking about, oh yeah, like I became a fan of this character this time, and oh, when I saw this is when I became a fan. Or asking, oh, so I don't really know that much about Nightwing, what is the best thing about him, or what made you a fan? So it's cool to kind of just elaborate with people and kind of those shared interests and those common passions. But I would say for me, the most significant event that happened, I actually met Kevin Conroy at back when it was LA Comic Con, but this was back when it was called.
Let's back up. Back this up for a second. You met Kevin Conroy,
Met Kevin Conroy, the
Batman the
voice of
animated
Batman,
series, the official
and
voice of
yeah,
Batman.
yes.
Did you ever tell us this?
I might have said that I seen him, but I don't know if I told you guys. Well, so in 2014, LA Comic Con was called Kamikaze, and I think this was like its third year, and now it's called just officially LA Comic Con. And at the time, it wasn't that very big. and I went on a Sunday, which was the last day. I got off of work and I was like, hey, I really want to go. Okay, cool. And there wasn't that many people. And I just remember when I had seen the list of guests that were going to be there, I had seen Kevin Conroy's name on there, but I had gone very late. I think I went like literally with 3-4 hours left at the event because I got off of work and I had to go straight over there. So I'm like, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting to meet him or run into him because I just assumed he was going to be gone, just given that it was going to be late. And I remember as I walked through the panels where all the guests were at, I think the main guest that year was John Barrowman. John Barrowman played Malcolm Merlin in the Arrowverse. So I think he was supposed to be like the premiered guest, or he had the spotlight as far as like the number one attraction for guests. And I look over and I see, everyone, there's a lot of people at John Barrowman's booth, and I just glance over and I see Kevin Conroy standing like 90 feet from me, and there's nobody in line. And I'm just like, I'm freaking, I look over and I'm just staring for like 30 seconds. My ex at the time had no idea about comic books, superheroes, just went along for the ride. She's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, that's Kevin Conroy. And she's like, who's Kevin Conroy? I'm like, he's the voice of Batman. And she's like, oh. So, and I have my nephew with me at the time. He was about 5. So I walk over there, and it was just like one of those really cool moments on having it all come full circle. Like, man, I've watched this guy as Batman since I was a kid, and in my opinion, he was the most definitive version of Batman as far as voices go. And just the fact, like, I'm standing right in front of it, and at this time, this was right around when Arkham Knight was about to come out. So I walk right up to him, and I'm just like, Mr. Conroy, and he was like, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, I'm super excited to be here. I really didn't think I was going to meet you today because I literally just got in. And he's like, oh, okay, so you're a big fan? And I'm like, yeah, of course. He's like, you like the Arkham games? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, yeah. I can't wait for Arkham Knight in a couple months. It's going to be awesome. And so I picked up my nephew at that point, and I'm like, Dominic, this is Batman. So he's like 5, and he looks at Kevin Conroy, because obviously, Kevin at this point was about to be 60, and red hair.
He's an older gentleman.
Yeah. So he looks at him, he looks at me, and he's like, what do you mean this guy's Batman? And he, does his Batman voice. He's like, yes, Dominic, I'm Batman. So it was just, I was broke at the time, just being a college student and making $800 a month. So I couldn't afford an autograph. I think it was like $40, but it was just super cool to have that all come full circle. And yeah, because I really didn't expect to see him that day. So just to be able to like chop it up for 5 minutes, even though I was broke, and be able to meet somebody who was really a highlight of my childhood, and somebody whose voice I hear in my head every time I read a Batman comic. Oh man, it was just a really insightful moment. One of those moments that you're never gonna forget.
That's awesome, man.
That sounds spectacular.
Yeah,
Nick, I'm not
really cool, man. So definitely hope you guys get to check out a con if you guys never have. Super cool experiences. Even if you're somebody who's just mildly into the culture, there's a lot of stuff to enjoy and to gravitate towards, and there's something that's gonna jump out of you whenever you go visit. So it's a cool experience, even if you don't dress up, but you should. So make sure you guys check it out next time they come to your neighborhood. And lastly, we wanted to talk about the most recent episode of Hawkeye, the episode 3, where we got fully introduced to Echo. What did you guys think of this episode overall?
I think it's probably the best episode so far. I really liked the action scenes and the way they played out. I feel like the characters are growing on us a little bit. They actually used a deaf actress in this, didn't they?
Yeah, she's fully deaf.
Yeah, she's fully deaf.
Which I thought was cool or interesting, because we don't see that too often. I really dug the episode. It's the best one so far. Still not quite the best MCU show. I mean, especially after the trifecta of WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and Loki. But I'm digging it so far. I'm liking where it's going.
Yeah, you could tell that they're not they're taking it slow with the storyline, because they didn't confirm that they're already having a second season for sure anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I think they're just taking their time with it. This third episode was pretty cool. Echo is awesome. She's an awesome character, especially the way they explain her storyline too. So it's like she has a vengeance and why she's actually going for the Ronin, you know?
They made her very sympathetic right off the bat. I mean, they kind of like put you in your shoes, give her what her experience like was growing up. And even though she seems kind of bad, she's not really bad. I mean, you get a lot of sympathy and understanding of where she's coming from. And you could even understand why why she believes that the Ronin is back.
Definitely.
Yeah. But yeah, I just got, like I said, going back to the third episode, that little hint of, I just want to know who the uncle is, even though we all kind of have a feeling who it is.
We all know who the uncle is.
Yeah,
You just want it revealed officially.
That's why I'm wondering if it is who we think it is, and I'm pretty sure we know. There's nobody else. The way that they're hinting at it and all the buildup, it can only be the Kingpin, especially with those reports that he was going to be, Vincent D'Onofrio was going to be reprising his role in a fat suit or a more comic accurate Kingpin, but I hope that's not true.
I don't think we need. Do we really need a fat suit?
No, we
For
don't.
him, no. He's just big, and he's big enough already.
I feel like the bigness of Kingpin in the comic books is something that's very
He's wider.
of comic.
You can't really do. He's a character you can't do fully 100% accurately in terms of his physicality, because he's supposed to be a man that's like 400 pounds, like 99% muscle. But what the hell? I think Michael Clark Duncan was the closest you're ever gonna get.
I know it's funny. I actually thought Michael Clark Duncan. I'm obviously that Daredevil movie's not very good, but he was good. He was a good Kingpin, and I think he was a good physical match. It's one of those things. It's almost like Bane. Realistically, you're not gonna be able to do, like, I feel like that physicality that people want is something that can only exist on paper or in animation.
Yeah.
It's not going to be.
Even then, Michael Clark, he was the closest you're going to get. 6'8", a solid, 250, 260.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's Kingpin in real life. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But anyways, going back to the show, I do feel, spoiler, I don't actually feel that it was actually Ronan, Jeremy Renner, or Clint Barton who killed her father and the Tracksuit Mafia. I actually feel like it was the Kingpin orchestrating events to get that done, because we actually know that similar event happened in the comics with Echo, and that's how she came under the Kingpin's rule. So go ahead, Ruben.
Or what if it's the Swordsman, and that's why he wanted to collect Bishop's freaking stepdad? Because what if that's why he really wanted to collect the sword in the first episode?
Oh, it could have been the Swordsman too.
Mm-hmm.
But
because even at the end of the episode, on the third one, my bad. Even on the end of the third episode, Jeremy Renner, he kind of gave a little side eye to see who was giving it to him, but you could kind of tell, like, all right, I think I kind of know who this is already.
Right.
But who knows?
Overall, I did like this episode, and I think it was really cool to see Hawkeye really be at a huge disadvantage once he loses his his hearing aid.
His hearing aid.
I think that was the thing that they focused on in the show was showing that more humanistic side and showing that grounded aspect. Something we haven't really seen too much on these shows, and we show the cumulative effects of all the battles and everything he's been through with the Avengers taking its toll on his body, on him losing his hearing. So it was cool to kind of be in that situation. It allowed for a lot of comedic moments and kind of having to. The cool thing was, even though he's deaf, you see him working with the bow, and it's like he's like Mozart. It's orchestrating on that. It's just crazy. Like once he gets that bow in his hands, how effective he is.
I think it's kind of hinting, especially with, like, I believe Echo had said to him, like, you rely on technology. She did say something like that, right?
Yeah, you rely on technology too much.
Yeah.
Like, you're better without it.
Yeah, where it's going to force him to become a better Hawkeye and he's going to realize that there's going to be times where he could be disarmed and he's not going to have that benefit. So he's going to need to learn to adapt better in the way that Echo has learned to adapt. I feel like Echo, like, she kind of uses her disability to her advantage because she's more hyper aware of everything else that's going on.
Yeah, like those things that a person who has here
would not notice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you see little hints of that too in her ability to read body language and to photocopy with her reflexes, somewhat similar to Taskmaster in a way. So I think like we saw that obviously when she was a kid in her sparring match. So that's also a way to cool, like, you know, you're gonna have to adapt. You might not have your ears, but you have your sight. You're gonna have to really lock in and hone in on stuff that people don't recognize or people don't realize. And the only thing I would say, this is a good episode overall. I think the action was better. I still would like to see a more, I'm not saying realistic, a more kind of inclusive or a set fighting style for Kate. We still don't know what exactly her training in martial arts was. She still kind of seems like she does a lot of random movements. We have a really defined is what I was looking for. Sorry. The defined fighting style like we had for Echo, obviously for Hawkeye, we have that. I really would like to see her come into her own. Maybe that's going to be the situation, or when they're trying to say like once she trains with Hawkeye, she's going to get better in those turns. But I'm like, well, isn't she supposed to be a great martial artist already? We haven't really seen her aside from having some kind of thinking out her feet moments in terms of her fighting.
She's a
style.
badass fencer, bro.
Yeah, she's still finding herself. Yeah, she hasn't found her own identity yet.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
And that's what they're showing.
Yeah. The only thing for me that stood out was what we have talked about that the MCU is notorious for is incorporating comedic moments at times that don't need it. Like that car, when they first got into the car and that car chase started, when the camera was inside in the back with them, it felt very intense. It felt very visceral. It felt, holy crap, anything could go wrong at any point, and Hawkeye can't hear, so what is going to go on? But the minute it came out and they started making jokes and making quips, it kind of took me out of the scene a little bit, and I'm like, oh, now we're back to making jokes. I think there was a lot of silence in the beginning. Like there wasn't a whole lot of talking. There was just them kind of focusing, the camera following around with their movements, showing what they were seeing, what they were looking at.
I mean, that's probably one of my biggest complaints, I guess, about the franchise, the MCU franchise as a whole. This is nothing new for them.
Yeah.
They have a tendency to like be in the middle of very intense action scenes or sequences and to deflate it with humor or jokes and kind of take you out of that moment. So I can kind of see that. I mean,
and I think for me, because I thought what made it even more taking me out of the scene was because I felt like this was something they were going to fix. Like, heck, if they didn't have any talking, they just had focus, especially because Hawkeye couldn't hear at this point. So if there was just focus on the action at play, focus on what's going on, like that, how the way it started off was really great. I was like, wow, this is intense. You really feel what's going on. They were in a lot of danger. And then the minute that the camera pans outside, and the minute I think once she starts shooting from outside of the window, that's when I really got taken out. And that's when all the quips started. I'm like, oh man, like I really thought this was going to set a new standard for action and that they had fixed that problem that we had before. And it just jumped right back into it. I was like, oh man.
I could definitely see your complaint. I mean, it was still well choreographed and well shot. It just lost some of its tension after that. And I don't know, it's almost like Penguin's different umbrellas with the different arrows. It was kind of goofy, and the slime, and like, I mean, I did like the Christmas tree trick.
It was cool.
Oh yeah,
it was cool.
It was cool to see different varieties of arrows, because obviously we really haven't seen too much of the trick arrows before. So it was cool. We finally got that nod, and we finally got what was really inside that quiver. What would you guys rate this episode?
7 out of 10. A solid 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I think that's very.
Yeah, I was gonna say 7.5.
7.5.
7.5. Yeah.
What about you?
A lot of the emotions that were going on were really, especially when Nathaniel called Clint and he had Kate had to help him with what was going on, and you just really saw a lot of the guilt on her face. Like, damn, I'm keeping this guy from his family. He can't even hear right now because his hearing aid was crushed because of me. He's having to stay here. Might have to miss Christmas because of my situation, what I got involved in, and I'm a complete like. I really felt like that was probably what redeemed that episode for me from that previous action sequence.
I still want to know what watch they're looking for too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because that's the main reason they broke in. It wasn't even for the sword.
Yep, that's true.
And it's for Uncle too. Uncle wants it. So, like, what's the watch? What's so special about that watch? Because even Clint asked, what else were they looking for? What else could they have been looking for besides the sword? I don't know. I was just
Well,
trying to
you're
run away
gonna have
from
to
my
stay
life.
tuned to find out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What
But yeah,
have they revealed what episode Yelena is going to be appearing in?
mm-mm.
No, I mean, I think it's kind of best to let the episodes be surprises.
Yeah.
It always
You don't
is.
want to get too much of a hint of what's going to happen before. I mean, some people do. I'm not one of them. I know a lot of people who love and read spoilers and want to know everything before, but I like being shocked by things. So
Watch it just
Definitely.
be the last episode as a cameo, and then boom, moves on to the second.
Yeah. So Hawkeye is a great series, a lot of good stuff going on, great acting, and definitely a lot of ramifications for stuff to come in the future. And hopefully the inclusion of another character from another MCU, well, Marvel, Netflix series. Hopefully we get to see him in the show if the rumors are really true. So make sure you check out Hawkeye. And with all that being said, that's all the time we have for today. We thank you guys so much for joining us. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Heroes and Mutants Podcast. Make sure you guys have a good day, and we will see you next time.
signing off.